May the force be with you is a phrase used to wish a person well to overcome a challenge. The invitation in this podcast, May the life force be with you, is to explore what it means to truly feel alive, to appreciate the physical, emotional and spiritual connection to our energy, and finally to understand how this impacts who you are and all that you do. May this conversation inspire you to thrive. This episode of May the Life Force Be With You is brought to you by Moment Company and the Moment Pebble. The Moment Pebble is a beautiful, natural stone, light-guided breathing device and is a unique gift for someone who needs that gentle reminder to stop and take a break, to take moments throughout their busy day and to practice mindfulness. Just head over to momentcompany.co, that's momentcompany.co, and enter the code LIFEFORCE at checkout to receive an exclusive 10% podcast discount. Hello and welcome everybody to the latest episode of May the Life Force Be With You. And we have a fantastic guest joining us today, and that is Sarah Seads, who is a kinesiologist in exercise sciences and a clinical therapist involved in mind-body connection. And I wish that we had Sarah on a few weeks ago, because she's also a specific sports training coach for runners and enduring athletes, as well as a passionate advocate for mental health. And Kareel and I were talking in our last episode that we recorded about the crazy event that I've just done over the weekend, which was High Rocks, and how much pain I'm currently in and can barely stand up. I wish I'd spoken to Sarah a few weeks ago around how she has run everything from 5Ks up to 100-mile distances, and how really kind of understanding breath as a big part of that training and running has made a big difference to her, and having a more positive experience when running, which is not my favorite thing. So I can't wait to have this conversation and get some tips. So thank you for joining us, Sarah. And it's lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, both of you, Kareela and Fiona. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I love this topic, these conversations, and I'm sure that I can give you some tips to help with your recovery on the other side if I wasn't able to help you leading in.
I knew I was meant to speak to you today. See, everything's for a reason. But before we kind of get into that, what we kind of like to kick off with a question around, what life force and life force energy means to you, Sarah. What comes out when you think about life force?
Life force. Yeah, so many things want to come in, from seeing, Yoda, to thinking about acupuncture and Chinese medicine and qi, and there's all these, message units and stories and beliefs and experiences from outside of me that want to come in. But then if I erase all those and just tune inside, and what does it actually mean to me? I can really only base that on my experience, my personal experience. And this concept of life force energy is very new to me. Like in the past 5 years, wasn't part of my realm or my reality until I started my yoga teacher training with Blissology Yoga. And that's when I started receiving the concepts, of prana. But it wasn't until 3 years ago, about this week, actually, 3 years ago, that I felt it. And I had my own experience with it. And so since then, I can explain what I think it is, from my experience. And I think it's many things. It's a flow. I think it operates on similar dynamics to like currents of, like energy and water. You can sense a movement to it, operating in a stream. It also feels to me like a field, like air, like it's everywhere. I feel like it can be concentrated or dissipated. I feel like it can be moved and utilized with conscious intention through visualization and creating our experience. But I also believe it can be moved mechanically, which I've experienced. And that's the most real thing to me.
So rewind. You say you experienced. So firstly, can I just clarify? You've obviously been running before 3 years ago.
Yeah, right? my whole life. Endurance running, 25 years, yeah.
Okay. And so you know what it's like to do endurance running, 100-mile marathons, ultra marathons. And you say that you only had an experience of life force energy 3 years ago.
Awareness.
Okay. And what happened 3 years ago?
Well, I was inspired, we'll say, to start a course called Stepping into the Light with Solara Anra. And in that course, I began practicing Kriya Pranayama. And I was already having some sort of energetic awakening. There was something moving through my body that I had never experienced before. And that's the thing that makes it real to me, because I know my body so well. And perhaps these currents were always in there and I just wasn't aware of them because of the noise of the chatter of the mind or the density of the body. I can't be sure which one, or if it amplified and was added later. But what I felt was actually a change in my body. So I remember, like, I was out on a run. So I can remember the very first moment where I would say I felt prana versus, we talk about prana as yoga teachers. It was so new to me. I didn't grow up with that philosophy. So it was in a book, right? Concept. And I believed it because it had been practiced, chi, just for so long. I just always believed that science is catching up to these things, and, possibilitarian, like Ian Finn says, my teacher in yoga. So I was out on this run during this initial pranayama practice, using these techniques where we're guided to use the locks, the bandhas, and move the flow of energy. And I stopped to look out at this beautiful river scene. And as I stood there, I felt a pulsing of energy in my root that wasn't a blood pulse. So it didn't align with my circulatory system pulse. And I've also never felt a pulse there moving up. Like I could feel a pulsing up. And it was so obvious because it was quite, not intense, hard, but it was new. And I know my body so well. And I didn't feel it when I was running, but it was in that moment of stillness. And I felt like it was the pulse of the earth is the best thing I can explain. Like I felt that moving up from the earth through my body somehow, even though I couldn't see it. Like I couldn't see it. I couldn't feel it coming up through my feet, but I just was aware that it was coming from below me and moving up. And I remember just jumping up and down, being like, I actually messaged my teacher and I was like, prana is real, is what I said to her. I sent a text. She was like, okay, you're having a lot of fun over there.
But okay, so like to me, you only run an ultra marathon on prana. I'm like, in my head, you can only run an ultra marathon on prana. Like I don't even know how you can run it on what else you use. And so that's why I'm curious about like how you did all of this running. Like, would you say that like it changed the running after that? Would you say that like you were running on prana before, you just weren't aware of it? Or would you say that actually I'm completely wrong and you can run on other things?
And just for the lay person that maybe doesn't know what prana is, are you talking specifically about breath and about the way that you are using breath? Is that what you mean by prana in this instance?
No, I mean prana meaning that like interchangeable with life force energy. Yeah. So the concept of that. whereas the breath techniques amplify and move that energy. And yeah, I mean, if we believe in prana, if we believe there's something that has yet to be proven, which is, I believe we're so close, and these terms are just going to be, we can talk about heart coherence and all these different states that create the same experience of life force energy moving through us. And it's just, we're going to find ways to measure this state that we call high life force very quickly. So I think it's at best to focus on the feeling because the definitions aren't quite there yet. But no, as an athlete, we're raised to focus on the physical body. So the circulatory system, the different energy systems that use carbohydrates, the respiratory system. Yeah. So it's either, we talk about food as fuel. That's a very big topic for athletes, and nutrition is, a huge topic. And we're learning ways to manipulate that, the physical foods we eat, and train the body to be more efficient. And actually, if we think about certain foods having higher life force, I radically changed my training that year as well for the second 100-miler. So I did 2. The first one, it was my first one. Things go sideways anyway. I'm not saying it wasn't because I wasn't training pranayama, but I had a different, completely different philosophy with the second one. Meaning I was in present state awareness, all the mindfulness practices, all the pranayama, all the energy control, all the breathwork control. I also used chakras, but I used cacao as well, which ceremonial cacao.
Why didn't we speak last week? I should have had cacao. I did actually have a mushroom blend before I did mine. Yeah.
Good for you. I mean, I'm a mad scientist when it comes to experimenting. I love doing it in sport. It's fun. And I just switched to drinking cacao, and it turned me into a fasted athlete, which I'd never fasted before. But you could say that ceremonial cacao, when it's treated the right way, is a high prana or high life force food as well. Wow. But what I was looking at was the mechanical, the nutrition way. It's high fat. It's got all of the feel good, the bliss compounds, all those molecules. So my body became fat adapted. I could go 4 hours without eating during my runs. Wow. And so then I decided to just use cacao and liquid calories.
So you are doing an ultra marathon on cacao alone. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, so I had a little bit of liquid. I didn't have any food. I had just cacao, with cacao, during twice with cacao. I mean, it lasts for hours. It was a 27 or 28 or 29 hour race.
Oh my God.
And and I had like an electrolyte drink as well with small amount of carbohydrates. Yeah. But it, like the cacao, I mean, it's amazing. And so those things all together made a huge difference. So I was looking at it from the nutrition way. But that being said, there is something that has happened, again, another feeling of prana or life force energy, where I actually feel like I can switch energy tanks. So I don't need as much food because I have prana. I can't prove it, but I can feel it. And it's like, there's a way to switch.
I agree with you, because when I'm high on prana, like when I've been doing prana practices, when I've done any life force practices, I definitely am just naturally less hungry. Like I notice it, notice how I can ride the prana. And that is not at this crazy level of running. But like I definitely agree with you. Like it is something that, like, when you have more prana, you need less food. And funnily enough, as I've kind of journeyed with May the Life Force Be With You, I've started to be like, eating dead food must be really bad for you, hey? Like really low prana in food has got to be really bad for you. You're eating what you're eating. Like that's just where I've been going, kind of, as I've been thinking about my energy levels. for my day, which is not doing this crazy type of running.
Yeah, it's work for the body. It's that whole ratio of work to, what are you getting out of it? Like there's just more work for the body for the nutrients it's getting. Yeah, I don't eat very much anymore. Like I eat way less than I ever ate on my runs. Like I said, I can go for hours, but even in the day, practicing pranayama all the time, I'm satiated. It's very strange. It's also the fat adapted. I will say that for sure. Drinking so much cacao, it's a huge part of my life. But yeah, it's a cleaner way of living. And the pranayama itself, so the breath work, just makes us so much more efficient, right? You're getting circulation without having to go for a run. You're actually improving your health. You're getting cardiovascular benefits without the stress impact when you're sitting breathing. You're decreasing your stress by going into a coherent state. So you're really getting your body in the most efficient state so that it's going to allow you to recover faster. It's going to let you be more efficient with oxygen and nutrient exchange. So it's hard to tease one thing out because for me, the focus has been pranayama as a way to bring in the life force. But I feel life force in a change in my energy, my lightness, my mood, even though the techniques might vary.
It's interesting because before I started really cranking up my training for this event, I had become a big fan of fasting, and I just felt better for reducing the amount that I was eating. So everything that you just mentioned, I'm vegetarian anyway, but it changed what I wanted to eat. I was very aware of what I was putting in my body, because breaking the fast, you wanted it to be something that made you feel good and you felt like it was going to kind of give you everything that you needed. And it's interesting when you go for the longer fast, you get this second wave of energy halfway through, like a 24, 36-hour fast, where you think, where's this come from? And you feel lighter and you feel brighter. It's almost like having a colonic. You're like, I feel good for this moment in time. And then when I started up in my training, everybody, and this is the thing where you listen to other people and not your own body, said you can't fast if you want to up your training. You have to eat more. And I couldn't. I found it really hard. I had to really force myself to try and eat more, and it didn't make me feel good. So I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I think it's also about understanding how your body feels. Only you know how it feels when you do these things. And I'm guessing the way that you train might not be right for everybody. It works for you because of all the other practices that you have in place. So it's not a case of, hey, everybody, let's just all drink cacao and go and run 100 miles. That's not what we're saying. But you had learned to understand your body, what works right for your body. And that beautiful moment you said about having that just conscious, in the moment, present awareness of how you're feeling, to the point where you can always say, okay, let's use this next store of energy that I've got here. Let's go into this reserve. It's that next level of connection between mind and body that makes you an ultra elite athlete versus someone that's sitting on the sofa going, how do I get started? Right? It's not for everybody.
It's interesting to me though, because like you obviously do mindfulness as well, Fiona.
Yeah.
And so your mindfulness practice is probably part of the reason you were able to fast while other people were going, you can't fast and exercise. Like the fact that both of you do these practices that are to me, it's like saying like, oh, there's this link between the meditation practice and the breath and the cycles of the body becoming more energetic. Do you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would never recommend to my athletes that they fast. It's not something that I prescribe. The literature is mixed. It works really well for some people, and it's a total disaster for others. There's a lot of research that says it's terrible for women in peri and menopause, or in and menopause. And it had never entered my radar because it wasn't supported. I love food. I've always looked at food, fuel, and like more is better, right? And we have the grams. It's like you want gas in your tank when you're running, you're going to load it up. Like, so never crossed my mind. Now, all sports are different. So endurance, we benefit from being a fat adapted athlete because you're not going fast. Like we're out there all day. If you're, trying to like, there's a certain range.
What is fat adapted, just for me and other people that don't know what you mean?
Okay, so thank you for asking. Yeah, so it's a switch of a fuel reserve. So a lot of us are super carb dependent because we eat more carbs. And there's a theory. Well, no, it's not a theory. It's proven that like we can go longer when we tap into the fat reserves because there's like 42 marathons worth of fat on our bodies that we can run and use, right? So you don't have to always be eating calories and dependent on this like wave of calories in, calories out. And then the body starts also utilizing its fat stores, which can decrease fat, right? Decrease hunger cravings and these spikes up and down. But that being said, if you want to push, you need carbs. Like you can't go fast and hard for an extended period of time. So a shorter event, it's just harder for the body to like, it can't contract the muscles at the speed that it needs to. The utilization is too slow with fat. So the energy produced just doesn't work. And so it depends on your sport and what you're doing. And so it's finding the balance. And so I mean, Fiona, for me, you hit like for my passion on the head, and it's intuition and experimenting and playing in your beautiful body to find out what works for you. But without present awareness, without stillness, without mind-body connection, you'll never know. You'll never hear your body. And most people are so cut off, like even when it comes to injuries. And then beyond that, it's like, okay, what does your body need for training? And so
but you must have heard your body. Like to be able to run that far, you must have been hearing your body before these practices.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it for so long that I was able to play with it. So I could take the framework. So I'll always start my clients with the prescription that works for most people. So 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour, 200 to 300 milligrams of sodium, 1 to 3 cups of water, whatever the foundation is. Because if you're not in touch, you don't know. And that's the safest way to go. And same with training prescription. Okay, work heavy on this day, rest on this day, do these progressions for hills. But when you do it long enough, or I could fudge it. So I would follow my own programs, but not to the exact T. I would do extra rest here, a little less there. I knew what I could get away with because I knew my body so well from so long. So you could call it intuition. In a way, it was a small amount, but it was more about having so much experience that my subconscious and my conscious knew. When I switched to an intuitive athlete, that happened 3 years ago. I threw my watch away. Got rid of all my clocks. And I took a year off of only living by intuition. I called it a year of following my heart. And I wanted to develop that mechanism. It was a dare. I bought a bus. That was one of the first things I did. My heart was like, buy a bus. I was like, okay. So I sold my house. I closed my business. I bought a bus.
Bust the bus.
Africa.
Bust the
bus. He had a name already, but yeah, he's in the driveway now.
Very cool. I couldn't hear you. You did what to the bus?
Oh, his name was Gus the Bus. He's in the driveway right now. So a lot of wild things happened, but when it came to sport, honestly, I was in a very, it was 3 years ago now. It was a very high stress time for me. And I just wanted my running to be fun. So, it was after COVID. There were no races. I wasn't really training initially. I did do a 100-miler, my first one in 2021, and I trained intuitively. Up till then, I'd only done 100 Ks and 125, and that's 160 kilometers. And it was the Western States too, which is the iconic. It's the world's most known 100-miler. It was the first 100-miler ever. And so it was really, really fun. They opened it in 2021. But what I did was I started doing these little experiments because I just wanted to run for fun. I didn't want to worry about my time because you look at the watch and your brain goes, you judge right away. You're either good or you're bad. You're either slow or you're fast, or it's a total judgment, subconscious, instantly. And I'm right or wrong. And I just wanted to go and for stress management and enjoy the nature. It was such a stressful time, as everyone knows, during 2020. And so what happened was I started going, because my intuition was waking up. That's when I started playing the games, and I call them penny slots with my clients. So I say, don't bet the farm, just play the penny slots, like if you're gambling at the casino. Mm-hmm. And one penny slot to check in with my intuition would be like which way to go on my runs, because I trail run. And so I wouldn't, my brain wants to say, next you're going up there, so you have to go left because you've always gone left before. But instead I would let the monkey mind run its course and wait until I got there and feel which way. So to me, intuition is a very deep feeling. There's all the clairs, but I'm really so the clairsentience, we talk about clairvoyance, clairaudience, and claircognizance. But I'm a real feeler. And so I would just feel, and I'd be like, okay, well, I feel like something is telling me to go left. It's very obvious. There's always a choice. And to me, that feels like a river of energy, like I'm following a tunnel kind of. And so that's how I played, for making decisions on the trail, where to go. And then I started doing it for my training. I'm going to do, it was completely off the charts. I had way more rest than I've ever had. Interesting. Since training intuitively, that's how I do it now. It's been 3 years. I haven't had a single injury. And not even, I had a lot of showstoppers. It happens, there's also you roll your ankle, etc. But it was very common, that level of training, combined with, lifestyle and lack of recovery, because you're trying to follow the life program. Just normal every 2 weeks to be into the physio, the chiro, the massage is part of maintenance. I haven't been once for anything running related in 3 years, which blows my mind. I mean, it's a combination of things, but the intuition is huge. I had to trust that I would still make the start line and the finish line by trusting the intuition. So it's been a radical experiment. But all that to say, I invite my clients to start with the foundations that work and then experiment a little as their communication system opens up with the body, because that's the safe way to play. Yeah, there's rules that keep us safe, guidelines, I should say. And then once we learn our body, we realize, I can do way more or way less, and then boom, then we're in the most maximizing our efficiency.
I love that, because that's it's very similar to what we encourage at what I do in workplace wellbeing, to get people to start to be aware of their minds. So it starts with mindset. I believe, and until you understand how your mind works, it's pretty difficult to kind of have anything else beneath that be your guide, because and even if all you can do is bring a slight awareness to something in your day, or you make a tiny little different choice from yesterday, you've immediately created change in your life, or you've created a kind of control A/B group test for everything. Did that feel better than yesterday? Do you want to try something different tomorrow? But if you just do the same hamster wheel every single day, you're not getting any of those signals. So as you say, just turning left instead of right, having tea and cacao instead of coffee, having a short run instead of a long run, having an extra rest day, all of these little changes start to add up and give you the data that you need to kind of go, I think this works better for me than something else that someone else might be telling me is going to work better for me. But without those change, without choice, and knowing that you have the freedom to make those choices, then you kind of get stuck in the hamster wheel. And I think that's the mind as well as the body connection. It's really important to acknowledge. It starts with awareness.
Yeah, these can be kind of big radical topics for a lot of people in sport. Sport can be fairly, close-minded, old school.
Regimented. You have a routine. Yeah.
And is that because it's on the edge? Is that because it's dangerous, do you think? Why do you think it is so regimented? Because it's competitive, because it's dangerous? Because
I think it's one of the old school. It's one of the old school parts of the world, of the paradigm. It really is. Yeah, because it's I think back to the way it was all about more is better, harder, like pay now, or pay later. And there's some truth to these things, like, but there's another way coming in. I really believe that. Like, it was, we used to do suicides in volleyball, like they were called, where you would just do anything to get the ball. And it's great. You need passion. You need these elements, but there was no room for softness. Like, recovery hasn't been really honored as a training tool until recently. Like, a lot of athletes, the number one fear is if they rest too much, they're going to decondition. And most people end up breaking down or getting sick, never reaching their potential, because rest is the only way that we adapt and grow stronger. You don't get stronger from the training. You need to have the right balance. And of course, athletes that can handle a higher volume of training will get more performance results. But there's other ways. It's kind of like learning to biohack the system. Not all of us are professional athletes that can train these high amounts, because you got a family, you got to work, you got a life. And so it's finding ways to elevate our experience that I would say are softer, but they're really hacks. So it's training smarter versus harder. And pranayama to me is and meditation is the biggest bang for your buck.
Well, because it's energy, isn't it? Like, it is like, presumably all sport is run on, I often compare channeling to being a professional channel. I often compare to being a professional athlete, because if you work in high energy, you have to take better care of yourself, because if you don't, you are going to pay such a big burnout price. And I've seen it so often. And I compare the muscles of the channeling body and the energy body to looking after the physical muscles, because I see it as the same thing, learned the hard way, I might point out. And ultimately, running on or channeling on low energy costs you. And I presume that exercising, especially in a high intensity situation, on low energy when you're tired, is going to come at the same cost.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Again, that's a perfect analogy. And to me, it's, if we don't recover enough, then we're always behind, right? So same with energy work.
It's like you've got a debt. You're running on a debt.
You've got a debt. So you'll never reach your potential if you don't replenish your stores. Yeah. And you risk injury, illness. Eventually you break down. The body says, no, you're going to rest so that we can rebuild your stores. And there's another piece there. So energy economy, we want to use the least amount of energy to do the greatest amount of work in sport, right? So the athlete who can push harder with a lower heart rate, it's going to be easier for them, and they're going to cover the same amount of ground or create the same amount of work. They're going to win. And so energy economy is massive. So exchanging oxygen through the tissues, the more efficient you are, but also stress. So if you're tense, if you don't have mindfulness and the ability to stay centered and the ability to stay calm and hear your intuition, if every muscle in your body is excessively stressed because you haven't learned all these mindfulness practices to be present, to trust that you're going to receive your intuitions when you need it, that you have all the tools you need within you, all of these philosophies that we gain from meditation and mindfulness practices, plus the physiological ones, those result in physiological changes. Mm-hmm. They create heart coherence or stress. And so when we're burning more energy and using excessive muscles and stressing the system on beyond what you would need to, you just think about that. That could be 50%. I don't know a number, but it's so much more energy that we're using during the event as well, that we can save and use to either go faster or further.
And I have heard that ultramarathon running causes a huge collapse on the body at the end of it. Like, I've heard that there's often like a collapse in the body after doing that. Do you think that's connected to energy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Difference in the collapse in the body if you preserved your energy better?
Oh, yeah. Since doing the pranayama and the mindfulness and meditation, I recover way faster.
Wow.
Way faster.
Because how many days or weeks, or like what's the...
Well, there's every race is different, but based on my own experience, I've just noticed the recovery is quicker, like if all other variables are the same. But it's also mood, I've noticed, because there's a very common post-race sadness is a common phenomenon. A lot of it's to do with the physiological changes, like your body's been shaken up, in a blender, and then the processes need to, they need time. So you're guided to be a bit slower, which can feel like a bit of a depression, a bit of a lull. So your body needs that time. But if you haven't, you don't fall as low, I find, when you have these practices. You also have the other element that this low has been, associated with is your whole life has built up to this event, right? You become so focused on it. And there's this, the same black and white thinking, almost like this is the be all end all. And then it's gone from your life. And so it's that whole hierarchy of preferences and enjoyment in life, which closes and gets smaller as we practice mindfulness and we appreciate the beauty in every moment. So those, you don't fall, those falls aren't as great. But from my experience, I had it's another energy topic, but I was using a pulsated electromagnetic field device called the Beamer, which I stumbled upon in my first 100-miler. And it was at the Airbnb that I rented, and I got to use it. And
it just happened to be at the Airbnb that you rented.
Yeah, the woman the Airbnb that I chose, that I booked 1 week before the race because we didn't know if we'd be allowed to travel with COVID, and it happened to be available during the race weekend where everything else was booked. She happened to be a distributor for the Beamer, which is a pulsated electromagnetic field therapy. I'd never heard of it. And she's like, "You can use my Beamer, Judith." Shout out to Judith. Love her. Fast forward, I bought one of these medical devices because it completely changed my life. But I know my body. I expect it to be out.
What did it do?
It's so it's electromagnetic field therapy, right? So it's really low frequency, like AM, FM radio, but it's created in a certain pulse. Like it was created for astronauts to keep their circulatory system active while they're in space in their suits. And then it was used by elite athletes and competitive horse people and for their horses. And now it's coming down. You'll start seeing it on physio beds. I would love to see it in every long-term care home because it allows people to get, oxygenation to their tissues and speed up their body's regenerative processes when you can't move, when you can't actually do it mechanically.
Oh.
And so, long story short,
while you were running.
No, you lie on it. There's also a red light option, like a spotlight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it had any effect during the race. There's way too many variables. I laid on it every day. I was like, sure, I used it. I didn't know, I went for it. Yeah. So anyway, after the race, unfortunately, something terrible happened in the race. My feet macerated. So they ripped open, basically. Oh. Yeah, it was horrendous. It was during the heat bubble. It was over 100 degrees. And I wasn't able to order a size up in my shoes. And so the small shoes combined with the sweat pooling in my feet, the water in there, 50 miles, halfway through the race, my feet were ripped wide open and the medics had to tape them. I've done a lot of painful things, difficult things. That was the most pain I've ever experienced. I asked them, I wasn't going to, I said, am I doing permanent damage? And they said, no, these will heal superficial, we'll tape you up. And so I just had to use all the tools. There was a lot of tears, but I was committed. I was in that. And I was only going to do 100 miler. This kind of stuff can happen, and even happen to a coach, right? So it was a big learning experience. I didn't expect the heat like that. It just came, right? That bubble and the shoes. And I had to learn this way, right? And so anyway, I couldn't walk.
Laughing about that. She's like smiling there. Yeah, I had to learn from ripping my feet open.
Well, I made a 180. The next race, my feet were perfect. I've solved all the feet problems. Shout out to my adventure racing sister, Jen Seger, who did the Eco Challenge. She told me about this great product for my feet called Foot Goo, I think it's called. But yeah, so I found something that worked. So, you learn. But the problem was I couldn't walk, and I was supposed to be going on vacation. And the medics told me it would be 7 days before my feet healed and I could walk again. So I was like, great. My friend Brian was there supporting me, and we were supposed to go on a van trip in California. And so instead I had to book extra days at the Airbnb. And so I'm laying there. So I got on the Beamer, and they were bringing me food. I couldn't walk. And my feet healed in 3 days. And this is the crazy thing. Like, normally when you do a new distance, it takes longer for your body to recover. Like, even 100K would take me weeks. 100 miler, I was going to take the whole summer off and just ride my bike, let my body catch up. It's not that I wasn't going to be able to run, but I didn't expect what happened. Less than 7 days later, I decided, okay, I'm going to go for a little walk down this trail. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm going to jog. I ran a 10-mile run. What? And I kept going faster and faster and faster until I was running hard. And I had just run for 28 hours. Like, it was 10 hours more than I'd ever run in my life. And my feet, I bought the Beamer then like the next week. I was like, I need one of these.
The Beamer oxygenates you, right?
Yeah, it improves your circulation. It creates vasodilation in a rhythm that facilitates healing. Yeah.
Can I ask, because you mentioned earlier about like using prana mechanically?
Yes. Thank you for asking. About that. This one's really cool. So last year I decided to run a whole series of road races. I have never done a road race, but I was like, oh, intuitively, this will get my nervous system fired up. I'll go faster. It was really funny. Like, I mean, because my body is like, doesn't do that. Like, it's been going long distance for so long, and it'd be like, come on, buddy. And nothing would happen. And it was good. It got it speeding up again. That's after a couple of years of doing these 100-milers. And, during the race, I just do completely intuitive. That's my goal, is to check out of my brain and just do what I'm getting as wisdom coming through my body and play with that. Because I learn a lot of new techniques that way that I wouldn't normally think of. I started that with mind games. So I'll get these ideas for like, if you're getting a cramp, how to use the mind to play a game to convince the body to let that cramp go versus just like grunting it out, or to like, avoid repetitive negative thoughts. Or there's so many games, and that's, I'm passionate.
I needed that on Sunday when my legs cramped on the lunges.
Oh, there's so many games. I'm actually going to write a book. Like, I could probably do 100 mind games. Like, I could do that in a week. Like, it's one of my passions. They just come through me endlessly. Like, games we can play for runners. And there, a lot of them are just,
give us a couple of games that we can.
Oh, okay. Well, Race Chase is coming up right now. So some are dissociative. I'll come back to the mechanical stress.
Yeah. Sorry,
not mechanical.
No, I love it. And I want to hear your cramp game as well.
So dissociative or associative. So basically, some of them we're checking out to like, if like just put that aside and not think about it, which can allow it to dissipate. And other times we're really tuning into it. Mm. So, okay, one really good example would be, you're climbing up a mountain, or you're training to run up hills, and you want to improve your ability to go up the hill without having to slow down. And there's that moment where your legs are just burning, everything's burning. Your breath is like so hard, and you're crossing over into this different energy system. And so practicing gratitude versus thinking of it as pain. So this is muscle fatigue, right? It's not like, oh, I've cut my leg open and I need first aid. Of course, we're going to do first aid for that. But there's this line that I found we can shift when we don't tell ourselves, oh, this is pain and I must stop. When instead we understand, oh, okay, the body is actually metabolizing things. It's learning to be able to go faster. When we learn the science, it does help. The longer I stay in this fatigue, the further I'll be able to go and without as much fatigue next time.
It's so interesting you say that, because my guides say that pain is the belief in your own limitation. So they say that's what it is. It's you believing in your limitations, which I feel like you've just confirmed that, like, if you stop believing it, then it still exists as a sensation, but it stops being a limitation.
It's true. And there is a line, because I'm not going to say go out and be reckless and you've got an injury and run through it. You got to know the difference, right? Like, is this a tendon that's rupturing? Yeah.
Sometimes in your limitations.
Yes. But when it comes to conditioning and trying to go a little bit longer, right, to be able to build a little more, the game I would play there, or a couple games there, would be, well, that signal, that burn in the legs, is actually a sign to push a little harder. And so it becomes a new belief. And you say, oh, well, that's the body's telling me, just push a little harder and then we'll be stronger in the next run. It's true. But the belief that most people have is like, oh, it burns, I should stop. Because we associate, and the word pain is debilitating. So I never use that with clients in that situation. It would be discomfort, fatigue, hydrogen accumulation. So that because when we hear pain, we think stop. And the other that I discovered is a huge one is gratitude. It's like when I feel that burn in my legs, it's because I have the gift of health and I have legs that go up a run. There's someone out there, many people out there in chairs, that can't run and
feel that burn,
that can never have that experience. And I'm complaining about my legs burning. So that's a huge one for me, but it's finding the ones that connect for you. When it comes to cramps, things like that, of course, we want to manage the body. We don't want to just tune things out, but we make them so much worse by freaking out. So in that state, you can condition yourself to, when I feel a cramp, right away, this came to mind. I picture a waterfall of light, as if I'm under a waterfall pouring down me. And then watching that cramp get picked up, that not get picked up, that energy that's trying to ball up, get picked up and let it flush into the earth. And then ask the body, what do I need to do right now in order to support you? That's super critical, because the body might say, that was it, perfect. Or it might be like, no, we need to get electrolytes in at the next. And that's where you combine the intuition with the visualization.
Yeah, I love, just asking yourself, what do I need right now? What do I need to thrive? What do I need to continue? What do I need to do? And the cramp was probably the most discomfort, not pain, that I had. But I find running difficult. And this was a majority running race, which was a crazy thing to do. And I've run a marathon as well, and I don't enjoy running. And every time I was doing a lap, I just tried to say to myself exactly what you just said. I'm doing this. I'm here. I'm running this race. I'm doing this right now. And I just reminded myself to be present in that moment, and to, as much as I could, lift my head up and just enjoy it and try and take in as much as I possibly could of being there at this event with lots of other people. And I did it with a partner. So just be with her as well, to kind of really, really enjoy that and to have those moments of gratitude. And it did make a difference. It really did. In the moment where I was like, I can't do this, I had to keep reminding myself, I can, I believe, I trust, and just to keep going. And I dare I say, actually enjoyed it. And much to my disbelief today, I actually went for a run, even though my legs are still quite heavy, voluntarily, when I'm not even training for it anymore. I must be in the corner. What's happening? But to your point, I'm still on the high from Sunday. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. I'm still on the high, the post high but I can feel it. Or maybe it won't happen where I have that down moment, because everything is building up to this event. There's been amazing camaraderie with my F45 gang, who have been amazing in training, and everybody that was there as a support crew. And then you kind of go, what next? Most of us have signed up for the next one, which keeps burning, keeps the light, the flame going. And I say that I'm not competitive, but the kind of, it's just a natural urge in you to kind of wonder where that limit is, where that push is, how it would feel to go to that next kind of level up grade, that when you get hooked on that kind of sport and adrenaline rush, it becomes addictive, and you want to understand the limits of your body more. And I'm grateful that I can do that. I turn 50 next year, and that's why I'm doing it, to kind of understand what my body can do at the different decades of my life. And I believe I'm giving my future self a really good shot of staying healthy by doing this now. And that keeps me really motivated as well. So that's just my little share from the weekend. So I just love this conversation. It's just, I really do wish I'd had it a week ago. It would have been really helpful.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. When you were explaining the discomfort and how the mind came in, and I mean, this is the number one battle for athletes in endurance sports. There's a limit that we feel, and the mind goes no, and then we can stop, or because it's all mental, right? We decide to stop in the mind first. Very rarely do we collapse. The mind says, no, that's enough. And there's two powerful things that came in there. As you tuned into the body. So you didn't say, okay, the mind says do this. You said, you tuned into the body, and you knew you could keep going. And so that's a great thing to do, is listen to the mind and then ask the body, because the body might be actually telling you, no, like you need to stop. Like me going to the medics to get my feet checked. I mean, it's an extreme case, but you're turning into the higher wisdom. Like, okay, am I actually okay? And the body's like, yeah, keep going. Like, you're like, oh, okay. That was just my mind. And the other is when you switch to the fuel source of gratitude, because it's, okay, one more, pain, discomfort as well. But you switch to that. I felt my heart connect to you. And so the power of that moment, when we tune into gratitude, that creates heart coherence. So that puts us in a state where the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems are in balance. The energy systems are chill. They're most efficient. They're least stressed. And we're using the least amount of energy. It creates peaceful thoughts and peaceful feelings, and it decreases stress. And just by tuning into the heart and thinking about something we appreciate or we're grateful for. And that's how I ran my second 100-miler. And it was night and day. That was my commitment. I wanted to finish, but I put that aside. I was willing to not finish, to experiment and see what happened if I stayed in a state of bliss.
Wow. So you did it in a state of bliss.
Yeah.
You stayed in a state of bliss.
Yes. Running
for 100 miles.
Yeah. And on Cacoa. And my friend who crewed me was in shock. She was like, I read her report after, and she's crewed for a lot of people, and she's experienced 100-miler as well. And she said she was concerned for me because I was so calm. She didn't know, she'd never seen someone that calm, but and that I didn't have it planned, because normally athletes I want this at this station, that at that station, like this many carbs. And I just said, no, I'll just know what I need when I come in. And it was all intuitively. And I asked her to make cacao and everything. And, to me, that was the most important thing at the time, because I was going through a huge amount of stress in my life. I didn't want my sport to add to that. Like, what was the point to me to go out and be in this, battling myself. I hate myself, and this is hard. And so I chose bliss as a strategy. And I'm so glad I did. And I also finished. I can't remember what I placed there. But yeah, it was a hell of a lot more comfortable than the first one.
And so, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like my heart is bowing to you that like you've just proven that something, like most people, the thought of running that far is just horrendous. To me, the thought of running like 20 minutes is pretty horrendous, to be honest with you. And so like, it's amazing to me that like something that is considered so hard, even by the athlete world, you manage to do totally in a state of bliss. And I just want to bring it back to these mechanics. Like, did you use mechanics to stay in a state of bliss? And if
yes.
so, what mechanics did you use? Give us the gold.
Yes.
Give us the bliss.
And when I say bliss, it's not that there weren't hard. It was hard. It was 100 miles. I had all those thoughts, but I loved them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had all those discomforts, but I held them and I made space for them. I did everything we do as a practice. And the goal was to stay in a heart coherent state and take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I get hits man, it was hard. Like it's 100 miles, like there's mountains and it's in the dark. And so the mechanical one's really cool. It's basically like a bandha. So it's a lock that we use in Kriya and advanced pranayama. And I was clued in to like start using that, the pelvic floor, like pulling up the root lock. So engaging the pelvic floor to send prana, shoot it up where it needed to go, and then use visualizations as if it's coming from the earth and send it to the body. And I actually, using the pelvic floor, I found, of course, that works. I mean, that's a skill to do while you're running. But I also found that using my feet, like running in a slightly different pattern with my feet more aligned versus apart, I was able to squeeze and activate while I was running. So these techniques would come, like I was using more musculature.
Bringing the energy up while you're running.
Yeah.
And then you bring it up into the heart to stay in bliss, or are you bringing it up and circulating?
Wherever it needs to go to. For me, a lot is solar plexus. So belief, right? So when you're getting down, you're tired, and it's like your personal power center. And so also I would use techniques where I would contract the solar plexus. So using like a chopping, like a compression to create a pump. And again, whether or not it's actually working, we haven't proven with science. I can visualize it. My subconscious, whatever I tell my subconscious, it believes. I say, it's all belief. I say,
we have
this
the science
is going to do.
We have the science of the placebo effect. Do you know?
Exactly.
There's more science on the placebo effect than anything else, actually.
Exactly.
In research. So
I love the placebo. Exactly. But we don't have the science on the solar plexus chakra actually affecting your ability to feel more confident. It's coming, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, that I just tell my body when I do this, I charge my personal power center and I feel stronger and more confident. And so either way, I don't really care what the mechanism is. It works. And I can actually feel a physiological change.
Mm-hmm. That to me is a science that you feel that it works.
Yeah.
To read it in a white paper, would that make any difference to how you feel? I don't know, but back to our original conversation, intuition.
To be honest,
if you can feel the difference, that's the difference.
And if you run 100 miles in a state of bliss, that is all the scientific proof I need that what you're doing is working.
Yeah.
That is the living proof, like that is living proof to me.
Thank you for saying that, because I feel like this is, it's like the 4-minute mile. Mm-hmm. Like once that was broken, everybody broke it. So this can be for states of being as well. If I want to condition myself to be in an enlivened, blissed state of gratitude while I run 100 miles, I can. It's a choice. And same with like the word pain and discomfort. I want to come back to that because we can use the word pain and we can just say, oh, it's just a word. Like it's any belief we want. And that's the power of not having to wait for science to catch up. When we have the power of the mind, we can choose any belief we want it's unlimited. We can open any bottle. We have the placebo. We have everything that we want. We just decide what the belief is and do the practices to accept it. That's hypnotherapy, which helps a lot, but it's not as much mystery. It's just accepting beliefs and deciding everything is a suggestion. It's up to us to decide what we believe.
Oh my gosh, I love everything that you've just said. And I just wanted to perhaps touch on one last thing, because I can't believe we're out of time. It's just flown by. I could speak to you all evening. But for anyone that's listening that thinks, have you all gone mad? You're talking about ultramarathons and how is this relevant to me? I feel that for anybody listening, this isn't just about running and running 100 miles. This is a practice that you can bring into your day, and learning the techniques of, heart coherence, moments of gratitude and mindfulness, a regular meditative practice, like training for a 100-mile race. Small incremental changes over time add up to be able to be those life-changing moments. And so there's everything that you've said, I feel, is extremely relevant for everyone just sitting on their sofa, never mind going out and being a professional athlete. So thank you for sharing that. I think there's a lot of people that are going to take some really interesting snippets away from the insight that you've shared. Me, definitely. So thank you very much.
I'm so inspired. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Who should we talk to next?
Who should we talk to next?
On the podcast. Who should we have on the podcast next?
Is there a genre that hasn't been...
Everything is
life force.
You know what came into my inner vision there right away was animals on the Serengeti, something about wildlife. And it's definitely, I don't know, is there a tracker?
Ooh, a tracker. Would you know of anybody?
I do, actually. I don't know him, but I can. My friend and my teacher, Ksenia Brief, she has a podcast called Web 8 FM. She interviewed him. She's quite passionate about him. He's coming into my field. So,
what's his name? Do you know?
I can't remember, but I'll get the link for you.
Thank you. That would be so cool. A tracker would be amazing, actually. Good intuition.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much, Sarah. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed the conversation and taken so much from it. And I'm definitely going to share it with all my F45 crew that we all need recovery tips. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you for saying also to reminding people, listeners to look beyond the ultra. I mean, that can be fun, but that's my game. We're all here to play our own game of life. And so we're all athletes in the game of life. And so if I can do it in this realm, what interests you? And it might be, it's a place that I practice it for the game of life. Sport's a really fun arena to build these tools. But the day-to-day is where, what we really need them for. So
what is your 100 miles of bliss going to be? That's the question I'm taking away from this. And I'm so honored that you have brought this idea into my life. And I'm so grateful that you came on the show. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Camila, how was our conversation with Sarah?
I am actually speechless. How somebody masters that level of attitude is, that is being a next level human being.
She's I don't know
human.
She's Yoda of running.
She is the Yoda of running. She even mentioned Yoda at the beginning.
I know.
She's the Yoda of running.
I mean, it sounds so simple, and I mean, it really does make a difference. When you think I can't, I can't do this. And someone says you can, and you take a breath and you keep going. And we take a lot of energy from other people supporting us in those times, but actually we have the power at our fingertips, mind tips, whatever you want to call it, to do that ourselves at any given moment. And just that momentary flip of mindset and that choice that she makes to be happy and grateful and tuned into her body when she's doing it is just phenomenal. So inspiring.
To be in bliss, like to
when your feet
bliss
are literally falling off.
Like just, and to be that fluent in the body and that fluent in kind of what I would presume is just energy, and how energy works in the body, and then to be able to have that fluency with the body and then go, oh, I've just felt prana, like to then it's because she's so like fluent in the other processes of the body. It's like she's so able to go, that is prana, that is life force, and this is other forms of energy release, and it's amazing.
So prana, I didn't want to dwell on it too much, but because, you guys were deep in that conversation, but it's basically that at peace. It's almost like that transcendent moment. It's the connection to self. Like how would you describe that
to me? And I don't want to speak for Sarah, but prana is the life force of the earth.
So you're connected to the earth?
So prana is the energy currency and current of the earth. And I believe that you can harness them, receive them, ride them, tune into them, do breath work with them. There's whole practices dedicated to the cultivation of prana within the body, or the receiving of prana within the body. But one of the things I really loved was how, after running for all of those years, 25 years, and then she suddenly has this, prana is a thing, and then it like completely transforms
her life,
her running, her life, her part, and because she actually felt it for herself, and to then for it to lead to this whole way of running from the heart and intuition, and just everything she's saying about not having an injury because she's fully listening. I mean, it's just amazing. Everybody has to listen to this conversation.
And as we said, it's not just for people that want to run an ultramarathon. It's helping you take these practices and build them into your day, so that you can go about your day-to-day life with that feeling and that ability to use your intuition in the same way. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that this is for everybody. Everybody has this. Clearly her ability to do it is at another level, but she's a human like us, like everybody, and we can all tap into our own level of that guidance as well, just by starting with some of those small mind games that she talked about. Be playful. When she was talking about pain and discomfort, they were all moments of being playful with it, or using visualization, or ask yourself a question. The minute you've done that, you've broken your mind away from the I'm in pain, because it's now thinking about the question you just asked. So even just those little techniques are great for when you're sitting at your laptop and get stuck, so it definitely was not just about ultramarathon running, which is hugely inspiring. It's about how we can live our lives.
And I love the divine timing. It was complete accident that this happened just after you'd done your own amazing fitness achievement. So with mindfulness, it was just so perfectly.
Next time I'm going to be on another planet. Lots of cacao. Ordering the cacao now, guys.
And a beamer.
I'm going to go and research what that is. Next episode sponsored by. No, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and we'll definitely get Sarah back on again to talk about some of her other work.
You say that about every guest.
We do. We're very fortunate. I'm very grateful right now.
I'm full of bliss.
Yeah. So until the next time,
may the life force be with you.
Thank you. You too.
We hope this conversation has topped up your life force energy. If it has, then please help us spread the life force. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. And may the life force be with all of us.